is genius. Has anyone actually... I'm actually gonna check if anyone's done this yet. Hold on. I beg. I fucking beg. If someone has... Fam, I don't think anyone's done this yet. Walking Dead 2's best characters. Oh my god. I don't think anyone's actually done this yet, which means I am a genius! Shit! Oh my god. Ladies and gentlemen. Yo! Welcome back to another video. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're having a great night. Whatever time you're watching the video. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another tier list. But not just any tier list. The most recent tier list, I think, should be the Walking Dead characters out of the whole universe. Or not the whole universe, just out of the Walking Dead show. I actually haven't recorded that video yet, because that video is going to need a lot more time recording-wise, and I don't have a lot of time right now. So we're going to do this one. But I'm more excited for this one anyway. But if you haven't seen the whole of the Walking Dead characters one, please go show that some love. But ladies and gentlemen, as I said, no one has done this yet. I don't think. And I thought of it in bed one night, because obviously Andrew Lincoln, I think of him when I go to sleep at night. Obviously by the title and thumbnail you would know what this tier list is about. You know, I don't have the exact replica of his murder jacket. This is the closest I got, but don't worry, I think I'm buying that in the future. Might do a video on it. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to be ranking Rick Grimes through the series. As we all know, he goes through various changes throughout the seasons, sometimes more than one change in one fucking season. I was laying in bed one night like, okay, I have to record the Walking Dead tier list, like the characters, because it's one of the most popular demands I have in my comment sections. And then I was like, oh my god, Rick Grimes is my favorite fictional character of all time. Well, there's like a rotation. There's like Spider-Man, Darth Vader, and Rick Grimes are like, they keep going in this shuffle of three, like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. But anyway, I was like, why don't I just rank all of the Ricks? All of the phases he went through. So ladies and gentlemen, today, that is the idea. This tier list you're about to see, I have made. So if you want to go do this one, make a video on it, send me your tier list, tag me in it, tag me in Twitter. I don't give a fuck. Please go do this tier list and let me know what you guys think. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can get straight into the tier list, and I'll explain how I've made it. So ladies and gentlemen, really quick, we're just going to start with the images first. So as you see, there's only 11 seasons. Rick is not in 10, and he's, you know, at the end of 11. But there's 13 images I have on the screen. That's because, ladies and gentlemen, I have split them up as much as I can to give us as much options and rankings as we can. So obviously, seasons 1, 2, and 3, Rick, I thought he was pretty similar throughout the season. The start of season 2, Rick, is pretty much season 1, Rick, so I've left that as one image. Season 2, Rick, I felt he was pretty similar from that point onwards. You know, we'll get into that. Season 3, I thought he was pretty much the same throughout season 3. Don't get me wrong, they went through some shit. Season 4, I have split into 2, because obviously we have the calmer Rick versus after the prison Rick, which was the build up to the demon. Then in season 5, we have the demon, the bush demon, and then we have after he shaves when he's in Alexandria. I felt that Rick, he was still savage, but I thought he was a little different. At the start of season 6, we have the Rick that dealt with the herd, clean shaven Rick, and I felt he was just different to the second half of season 6. I felt he was becoming a bit more savage again. I don't know. I'll get, as I said, I'll get into that. And then obviously the start of season 7, Rick was a bit, you know, destroyed from what just happened. And then near the end of 7 was the build up to the 8. And then 8 and 9 I've left as 1 because I felt they were the same. So seasons 4, 5, 6, and 7 have 2 splits of Rick, because that's just how I felt when I watched the show. You might think other seasons had a split of Rick as well. You can let me know that in the comments, but from what I saw and what I felt, this is what I'm going. And ladies and gentlemen, keep this in mind, this is my opinion. So ladies and gentlemen, the first tier is God. I'm forgetting something. Okay, ladies. Bro, the hat doesn't fit anymore. I wore this for Halloween when I was like 10. I remember trick-or-treating, and I had literally the Officer Friendly outfit on. And I remember one of the women in my neighborhood answered the door. She was like, it was like me and some friends. She's like, oh, Spider-Man? Oh, Batman? Oh, Cowboy? She goes, are you Rick Grimes? I went, yeah! And then she's like, are you a bit too young for that show? Bitch, fuck you before I bite your throat. Anyway, so yeah, the hat doesn't really fit anymore, and it's just like a cheap hat. Like, the costume was from Target from when I lived in America. But anyway, the top tier, I've called it God himself. And then under that, I put unstoppable. And that's obviously not quite God, but this Rick was pretty savage, and I did like it. The middle tier, which is for, like, the pretty badass Rick, I've just called it Ricky Dicky Doodall Grimes. And then under that, we get to the lower versions of Rick. I've put grow some balls, Rick. And then under that, I put pussy old Grimes, because he was a pussy hole. A pussy hole in these seasons, or in this part of the season. Bearing in mind, I actually don't dislike any version of Rick, really. I love Rick Grimes every day of the week, but I'm going to be as strict as I can in splitting these up and as well as I can. Do you know what I mean? So just because I put one Rick in pussy hole Grimes doesn't mean I hate him. It's just for the tier, you know what I mean? Season 1 Rick, you know, me and the hat. So this is a hard one, because I mean, I don't dislike any of these Ricks, but this Rick, in his defense, he was just starting off with the apocalypse. All he wanted to do was find his family. He was clever, still getting used to the world. He wouldn't give up on the CDC. He was right. I think he probably might have been my least favorite version of Rick, maybe. I don't think so, actually. I'm not sure he was my least favorite. You know what? I'm gonna try and be a bit ballsy here. I need to stick to what I really felt during the show. I'm just gonna put grow some balls Rick, because he wasn't actually a pussy hole Grimes, as I would say, in the bottom tier, because, you know, when Glenn got captured, he went for him. You know, he put the guts on him. He had balls in this season. He just wasn't fully adapted. So, you know what? I think grow some balls Rick, even though he had balls. We'll leave him down there just because it wasn't anything too special, but he was pretty good for the situation, if you know what I meant. Season 2 Rick. Now, this is difficult, because season 2 Rick was the Rick that obviously had to deal with Shane. You know, your best friend giving your wife some back shots is not an easy thing to go with. You know, he fought Shane. I was actually on Rick's side a lot of the time when it came to them two, even though Shane was right about certain situations. I'm just biased towards Rick. Again, this was a situation where I think he did need to grow some balls, because, you know, Shane was right about a lot of stuff. I just think Rick was still trying to be that respectful, especially towards Herschel, which is why I think in the later seasons Herschel and Rick always had that connection, because of the respect they had for each other in season 2. The question is he better than season 2? I think he is better than the season 1 Rick, but I don't think I'd put him in Ricky Dicky Doodle Grimes, just because he was still going through that phase of being wrong. Like, you know, he should have listened to Shane with a lot of stuff, and he was still fighting that battle between living in the past world versus this world right now. Do you know what I mean? Like he still was trying to be that good person but keep everyone safe. He wanted to look for Sophia even though she was in the fucking barn, and whenever she came out he felt awful, because he's like, I had people looking for a girl that was dead. So yeah, but when he fought Shane, you know, again, it's a situation where in terms of him as a character, he had balls, but he wasn't fully adapted to the new world. So I don't think I can put him any higher. I think that's a fair argument. Season 3 Rick, this was a Rick that I thought was pretty similar throughout the show, throughout the season. You know, he was pretty savage from the start because they'd been out on the road. You know, he had that attitude with Lori from the start. He cleared the prison. He machete drove it into that guy's head when he said shit happens, you know. And I felt he was a savage throughout. I felt the only change that he went through in the season 3 was that brief period where after Lori died, when he was seeing her with the phone call, when he started to lose his mind a bit. But it was too much of a brief period before he snapped back into the previous season 3 Rick to give him another picture in this tier list. So I've just kept it as just him. But I think this Rick went up a level. I think he went into Ricky Dicky Doodle Grimes. He didn't back down against the governor. They happily went in to save Maggie and Glenn. You know, they bought smokes. You know, this Rick, he was closer to demon time. You know, I liked season 3 Rick was very good. And the way he stood up to the governor, I think really gives him that slot. Because as you all know, the governor is insane. You know, dude is a psychopath. But I think Ricky Dicky Doodle Grimes is a nice level for a build-up, because as we can see by the tier list already, he has built up through the series. He's just not fully at apocalypse mode. But that shit happens. It's showing cracks of Rick to come. As well, I'm judging this off of my feeling towards him throughout the series, and the season 3 Rick I thought was pretty good, but if you got to compare it to the others, you know, it does drop a bit. Next is season 4, the start Rick. I'm gonna be honest, I might put him in and then I'm gonna put, and I'm just gonna do this purely because of how I felt when I was watching it. I'm putting season 4 first half Rick in pussy hole Grimes. And the reason I put him here is because I thought this Rick was quite boring. I honestly did. I thought the farmer Rick was boring. The calmer Rick was boring. Pretty sure he wouldn't touch a gun. Then they had to deal with the illness. I'm not gonna lie, the illness part of season 4 is one of the most boring parts of the whole show. In my opinion, I hated the illness. I love season 4, but the illness part, I just didn't like the episodes. I was just a bit like, fuck, can we get past this? And him in that stage, I wasn't really excited by him. I love him still, but as I say, season 1 and 2 Rick, I think, were more exciting. He was like with action, whereas this start of the season 4. And don't get me wrong, he had his reasons. He was trying to be tamer and create more of a better life for Carl and for everyone. You know, he even said that, and I fully understand that and I get it. But it wasn't as fun for me to watch. And this is also the Rick that, you know, got crept up on by the governor and got his ass fucking whooped. Oh my god, as you've seen the middle part of season 4 Rick, where the governor just he would have killed him. If Michonne didn't stab him, he was going to fucking die. Which, when you watch that fight back, dude, it is one of the most frustrating fights because he was actually winning the fight. And then the governor just gets like one fucking hit on him. He's on top of him and he's choking him out like a fucking porn star, dude. Like, what is that? Rick, fight back, you farmer pussy. But then that also gave us the second half of season 4 Rick, which I'm gonna put in unstoppable. He's not quite God himself because it's building up to that point. You know, I loved this Rick. This is the Rick that bit that piece of shit's throat out. Oh, that strangled that pussy in the bathroom, you know? The second half of season 4 was an amazing half to build up to 5. I also think that if he didn't bite Joe's throat out, I would probably have him here, or maybe even after season 3, because a lot of that half of season 4 Rick's like recovering. You know, he strangles the guy in the bathroom, he gets his murder jacket, but he doesn't really do a lot other than strangle that guy. So I probably would have put him here. But the fact when they caught up and that guy was like on top of Carl and something just snapped in his brain to bite Joe's throat out, and then after when he goes, he's mine, and just fucking guts the fucking fat shit, dude, it puts him up and unstoppable so easily, dude. I watched the throat biting scene countless amounts of time. You do not understand. When I first saw it, I rewinded it 50 times. Bro, I remember ages ago, because I have all the box sets over there. Well, I have 1 to 7. I would always put in the DVD I knew had that scene in it. And I would just fast forward to the throat bite, and I would just watch it over and over because it was so intense. Even watching it now, especially if I watch someone's reaction to it, like, I get goosebumps, my heart starts going. Like, it is such a good scene. Nasty! But as well, actually, I don't know what half I can't exactly remember. I can't exactly remember, but Rick snapped a little bit when Tyrese punched him, and Rick punched him a couple times, you know, and he let Carol go. So I think that was also a build-up, but I can't remember how early. But yeah, Farmer Rick, to go from that all the way to unstoppable is pretty impressive. So just shows what the man can do. Ladies and gentlemen. Fuck! Look who's next! Season 5 Bush Rick. Terminus Rick. The machete with a red handle Rick. Murder jacket Rick. That's what I'm gonna use to kill you. I already made you a promise. Punches Aaron with a right hook. It's something like, oh, if this is a trap and you've led it straight to your people are gonna die tonight. This Rick saw nothing but red. This Rick was the greatest adaptation to a main character I have seen in any show at any point in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, this Rick is God himself. He is God himself. Odin, Zeus, Kratos, no one stops this man! Thor comes over with fucking Mjolnir and the axe, whatever. Rick bites his throat out. Oh, Zeus? Machete with a red handle. There's no stopping Big Beard Rick. Brown shirt, murder jacket, Big Beard Rick, there's no stopping it. Machete Rick, you can't. You know, whenever he got that piece of wood up his sleeve, told Garrett he was gonna kill him. Luckily, Carol was there to give him a bit of a distraction. Fucking stabs the guy in the neck, which was so sick. Sprints over, stabs the other guy in the neck, and then says, let him turn. Gets the AK. I love the AK scene where he stabs the last guy, sprays all of them in front, turns around. He is a demon. And then they go out to the woods, right? Get the bag, and he goes, they don't get to live, right? And they're all like, oh no, Rick, let's just go. Nah, let's just go. Listen to him. If they went in and killed him, Bob might have still been around, so. But as well, if they didn't kill him, we might not have gotten the church scene, the episode where it's like 4 walls and a roof. We might not have gotten that. And then obviously the thing with Beth. So yeah, that Rick is definitely up there. I adore that Rick. That Rick is one of the reasons I think people started loving the show as much as they did. The demon mode Rick is an unstoppable force that should not be reckoned with. You know, Jesus Christ himself cowers in the thought of seeing that version of Rick come at him with a red-handled machete. That's all I'm saying. Next up, we have the second half of season 5 Rick. Now, don't get me wrong. Season 5 Rick is a demon the whole time, but I split them up. I just felt Rick was still a little bit different after he had the shave, was in the community, put on the officer's uniform, you know, when he was starting to look after the community a bit more. This part of Rick, though, you could see Shane in him, like, a lot more, like, especially with the whole Lori thing, like, he would look at the blonde woman and Peter. I can't even remember her name. Jesse. It was fucking Jesse. Anyway, the same way Rick looked at Jesse and Peter was the same way Shane would look at Rick and Lori. Like, he had that look in him that he was going to raise up his wife, or that he wanted her and he knew he wanted her. I just felt it was a bit different from out there Rick. Still a savage, though, because that is also the Rick that coldly just shot Peter with no hesitation. Rick, do it. Turns, bang. No thought at all. He wanted to do it from the start. The Rick where he goes, me? And he laughs and he goes, you mean me? Oh my god. The one where he says that if they don't understand, we'll grab them and then threaten to slit their throats. This Rick, the one that gave the speech at the end of season 5 after he throws the walker in front of them all. Like, this Rick is not as good, but in my opinion, was still one of the most entertaining Ricks to watch. The whole of season 5 Rick is God himself. I just wanted to split him up. I just thought he was a little bit different from Bush Rick. But I love that fight scene with Peter where he has him in the headlock. He's like, you touch him again, I'll kill you. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have season 6, part 1, Rick. Now, how I divided season 6 was the herd. When Rick and Daryl went on that trip out, and then they found Jesus, that's sort of when I split up the different Ricks, because obviously they go through rebuilding Alexandria after the thing fell and after the herd. So this Rick I'm about to rank really cuts off after the herd, after Carl got shot in the eye. But I still love this Rick. I don't know if I could put him on the same level as God himself just yet. It's hard. I'll explain my thought process. So the start of season 6, we see him dealing with the herd, and I actually found that part very interesting. I love that part. I love the part where, he kicks that fucking tic-tac headed guy. I can't remember his name. He goes, do you have any idea who you're talking to? And then when the guy actually has respect for him, he gets his face chomped. That Rick, the one that was sprinting towards the gates, open the gate now! That Rick makes me want to put him here. But the episode I love with this Rick is I love when Carl gets shot in the eye and he just snaps again. I love that part. Whenever Carl looks at him, he's like, no. Carl drops, he picks him up, he puts him on the table, and he just looks out of the door. Yeah, there's like blinds on the door, and you can just see his nose twitch, and he picks up the axe and just goes outside and goes ham. So that episode alone makes me want to do that, because I'm trying to look at it as a whole, because as a whole of the second half of season 4, the only thing that put Rick up to there was the throat bite. But the throat bite is so goated. But this Rick was consistently badass. He was clever with the herd, even when it didn't go his way. He fought the guys in the RV where he elbowed him, shot him, turned around, shot him, got the AK out, sprayed the wall. Oh my fucking chlamydia, dude. It was so hard. And then where he chops off Jesse's arm just because it was grabbing Carl. Carl I got shot. Yeah, that I think more consistently, I think that Rick comes just before this one. Especially with the only reason that this Rick is coming up is that snap to lead us into season 5. If you were to argue that he was just there, I I wouldn't have a problem with it, but season 5 in my eyes is just such a different level, dude. Now the second half of season 6 Rick is the Rick I was on about, where after they find Jesus and that's when they start encountering and hearing a lot more about Negan. This Rick is also still a badass. He's got his beard back. This is a murder jacket with a bit of a gray beard just before season 7 episode 1. This Rick was badass, I can't lie. I did still really like this Rick. No, this is the Rick that shoved the piece of wood into the guy's throat, pushed it off, turned around and went, what? Like he didn't just do that, but but I still love this Rick. It's just where do I put him? Off the top of my head, it's either there, it might be there. I also think this Rick was, you could tell by the way he was acting and it was going, it was inevitable he was going to be humbled at some point, and I think this was the pushing point where they kind of got a little bit too confident of themselves. But he was still a badass in this half, like what I just said, where he chopped the guy's throat whenever they planned to take out the saviors. The guy that says, I'm Negan shithead, and he just goes, sorry it had to come to this, bang, pops him in the head. I think the real debate, I would still say, like season 6, the more consistency overtops this one. Does he come above this Rick, or do I still like the first half Rick better? Well, as well as the second half of season 6, they were quite invested in different communities, with the Hilltop. It's really close. It's really fucking close. You know what? I think I'm gonna keep him there. I think because he was working his way up to being humbled real fast. I don't know how to describe it. I guess it's just how I feel when I watched it. I just feel that this Rick was, to be fair, this Rick was also coming off the back end of this Rick. So I think as he spent longer time in the community, don't get me wrong, he was still a savage, but I just think as it got closer to the season 7, he had lost his way a bit in his demon mode. Because even Negan says that he was like, I would not have messed with that guy. So you know what? I think that's a fair shout is into that downfall, because obviously at the end of season 6 is when we get Rick on his knees. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, I actually wanted to use this image for a reason, so I split up 7 again. I mean, a lot of 7 is, in my eyes, the split between 7 was broken Rick and then building up Rick. So sort of like how, so with but it's quite funny because the seasons 4 and 5 Rick have a pattern to the 7 and 8 Rick. It's 4 halfway point was Farmer Rick, Calmer Rick, got humbled by the governor and lost a crucial member of the group to him, which was obviously Herschel, that broke him. And then we see the build up to the season 5 Rick, where season 7 is literally like a copy of that, where Negan humbled him. Negan took one of the greatest characters of the show, broke Rick, so we see broken calm Rick throughout first half, and then that second half of season 7 we see another build up to, again, another arguable demon mode Rick. So that contrast and the way it's like a roller coaster is it's very good. But anyway, I used this image for a reason of Rick crying, because I just wanted to really emphasize how analyzing this Rick. So this Rick was one that just got humbled the fuck out of Negan. That first episode of season 7 is one of the greatest episodes of television I've ever watched. Oh my god, it's up there with Ozymandias, it's up there with Herogasm. It is fucking incredible. I watched that episode so much. So many feelings, so many emotions, so well shot. The acting is 10 out of 10. It's incredible. But this Rick, I hated this Rick. I'm putting him last. I hated this Rick. This was I think seeing Rick like this was one of the reasons people kind of fell off the show in season 7. I think people that fell off the show in season 7 should continue it and give 8 and 9 especially a chance, because they're good seasons. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like with me especially, what carried the show is this character. Rick carried, any scene he was in, I was invested. I was like this. And the episodes where he wasn't in, I would get through them so I could see him. So seeing Rick like this just sucked ass. It fucking hurt. It wasn't nice. It made the show horrible. But then at the same time, that start of season 7 was a lot of Negan and seeing him, which was also very good. But yeah, no, I did not like this Rick. I I probably preferred Farmer. I don't know. I don't know because he was still, you know what? No, I actually think Farmer Rick is actually my least favorite version of Rick because it was so boring. Whereas at least the start of season 7 Rick, he had just been humbled, but he was still going out searching for supplies. You know, when Spencer said about something about Glenn, he's like, I'll break your jaw. You know, actually, I take some of that back. I think I'm still putting him in pussy old Grimes because bro just got humbled. Bro got humbled so hard, his hair changed color. Like I'm not gonna lie as well, like the whole series as well, he just looked different. He looked beat. I don't know what it was, but he just looked broken, which is fair play to Andrew Lincoln because he was supposed to be, but I don't know, just the way he was, I just didn't think he looked right. Which is again what it was supposed to be, so it was well written and well acted. But I just hated to see him like it. It just wasn't nice. So that's why I'm gonna put him in pussy old Grimes, bro. Whereas next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have the back end of season 7 Rick. This Rick was a lot better to watch. This is when they decided and they were planning that they're gonna fight back, and this was the Rick that was, you know, he started to go out more, and you could see his energy was coming back, his belief was coming back. You know, when they tried to scout the junkyard people, when him and Michonne went on that scout out for supplies, and he was like, you know, I'm sick of this. And you know, I really started to like that Rick again, and especially the junkyard when they push him down and he fights and it goes to his hand, but he doesn't give a damn. You know, this Rick is very good. It's, as I said, it's a build up. Now the question is, where do I put him? It's in Ricky Dicky Doodle Grimes or Grow Some Balls Rick. But I think because how he developed later on in the series, he automatically is better than 1 and 2. You know, he wouldn't stoop down to their level of stupidity. Because the problem with 1 and 2 Rick is they hadn't adapted the apocalypse. So it's whether I prefer to watch season 3 Rick or the start of season or the back end of season 7 Rick. That's really the decider here in my mind. I mean, could you even argue that this Rick was more entertaining to watch than the back end? I don't know, because that throat bite is so sick, and seeing him snap like that. But I also know the throat bite was like the second to last episode, or the last episode. It was one of them. Even though his attitude was up more, I still didn't. I'm also basing things off what he did. I think as a whole, I mean, I know I'm comparing back end of season 7 to a whole of 3, but I honestly think season 3 Rick was very entertaining to watch. Even though he didn't go through that phase yet of demon mode, he was still in that mindset where it was like, they cleared the prison, he drove the machete through the guy's head. You know, even him losing his mind was still so entertaining to watch. The balls going up against the governor. I liked that Rick probably a bit more than season 7 Rick. Because to be fair to the back end of season 7 Rick, he was still recovering from all the shit he had gone through. But he was still badass. So you know what? I think if I was to go back and watch each Rick as like a montage, I think I would prefer to watch season 3 Rick before this Rick. But it's very close. I think that's a fair argument. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I was on about, which builds up to season 8 Rick, which some people were so excited about because this is the Rick that everyone feel we got back what we wanted. This is the Rick that people thought was as close as possible to that season 5 Rick. He's not exactly up to this Rick's level, not exactly, but he is very, very close. This Rick is what made season 8 so enjoyable. When he was sticking up to Negan, he had everyone on his side. The murder jacket came back out. You know, he shoots the guy in the face. You know, he says, I lied. And him and Morgan had a very good chemistry when they were going after him. I personally love this Rick, and I wish that lots of people didn't give up on the show after 7, and they just gave it that little extra chance to then see this Rick again. I think seeing this Rick again would have boosted people back to the show a lot more. I don't see why, if they went through season 4 Rick, why they weren't able to go through season 7 Rick. You know, I personally don't. You know, some people's logic when it comes to that, saying the show died off. In my personal opinion, the show sort of died off after 9. In my eyes, 10 and 11 weren't great. The reasons I stuck with 10 and 11 were strictly for Daryl, if I'm honest. I hated a lot of the new characters in 10 and 11, and you know, you probably would have heard me say that in the previous tier list. But anyway, we're not here for that. So this Rick, Now the question is, I'm definitely putting him in God himself, because we saw the Savage come back. We saw the Murder Jacket come back. It's what we wanted. And then we saw him fight Negan. He lights Lucille on fire. So badass. Come get her. Throws the axe. This Rick is great. It's just whether I prefer him to the back end of season 5. That's the question. I think he deserves it. But I also love the back end of season 5 Rick so much. Like, me personally, I love that back end of season 5 Rick. But I also know, as like just a general overall, this Rick probably deserves to be up there. Let's try and compare him. So season 8, he fights Negan, lights Lucille on fire, slits Negan's throat, goes through the loss of Carl, says I lied, him and Morgan. Whereas this Rick fights Peter, you know, shoots him with no hesitation. Because of the redemption that he went through, I'm gonna leave the season 8 Rick in second place. And then the back end of season 5 Rick is just it's very close. To be honest, dependent on my mood, it could be like that, or it could be this, or it could be that. But I think for now, I think it's fair that we give Rick, the redemption Rick, his second place that he deserves, because he was really fighting back after to lose Glenn as well, and Abraham. Obviously, Abraham was very loyal. I feel Abraham is very overlooked because of Glenn. But this is a really hard decision, because I love season 5 so much. I'm like, oh, but he deserves it. But I love season 5, but he deserves it. But I love season. It's hard. But anyway, next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have our last variation of Rick for this video. I know Rick comes back at the end of the show, but like you don't see a crazy amount, so I don't want to rate him off of like an episode compared to these. But we have season 9 Rick, who was only in it for 5 episodes. I do like this Rick. I didn't feel he was as much of a savage. He looked like a lot of an older man. His goodbye episode was incredible when he saw Shane, when he saw Herschel. You know, when he says to the guy, stitches won't fix what I do to you. That's a badass line. But that's really all in my eyes he did. I'm not gonna lie, the trim as well is an abomination to society. How dare Andrew Lincoln have that much of a beautiful hair and fucking shave it off? Honestly, the trim alone makes you want to put him there. I swear to God. I was heartbroken when I saw that he did that. When like how Why would you do that to him? Like these images here, when it's messy, wet forward, when he's got blood on him, dude, it looks so fucking badass. When he's head tilting and shit, badass! And then they shaved his head and I was like, what the fuck? Why have you done that? You've just gotten rid of his demon mode. But then the hairs come back, and as we've seen, honestly, the trim makes me want to leave him here. But I can't do that. I can't do that. He's obviously better than these by default. You know what? I'm putting him at the, I think there is a fair shout, because he was a lot focused on building the communities and trying to keep everyone together. His goodbye episode was incredible, though. It was very good. I also loved, I noticed it instantly, and I know a lot of you Walking Dead lovers would have as well, when he was getting lifted away in the chopper and they started playing, is it Space Junk? I'm pretty sure Space Junk is the name of the song. But anyway, you know, the song that was played when he was in the tank, instantly got it, and it just gives you such good feels. But I think I would personally leave the back end of season 7, the build up to season 8, above this Rick. I just think the trim is an abomination, and he wasn't on demon mode, and that is a long analysis for the greatest character of all time. Jesus Christ. I'm gonna quickly review this shit and see if I would change anything, so give me 1 sec. Not gonna lie, ladies and gentlemen, I honestly think I've banged this first try. I don't think a lot of people would disagree with me. I don't think a lot of you watching this video, if you do, please let me know. But you know, the season 5 Rick is obviously the GOAT. Season 8 was as close as we saw to what we loved. End of season 5, that is the overall god himself for that season. Season 6, in my opinion, wasn't as OP, but I enjoyed that season so much, and he was still badass in it, but obviously it's leading up to the downfall. The throat biting scene really, and the build up to this Rick really was so entertaining to watch after the shit show we had just seen for that season 4 of poor Herschel and all that. Season 3 was just, I felt season 3 was just all round very entertaining, but in terms of Rick, he wasn't as developed as these later seasons, but don't get me wrong, still one of the most entertaining Ricks to watch. This Rick just came off of a huge loss and a huge humbling, but came back from it, which just shows the sheer will and belief and how great this character is. He can go to the lowest low and come back and will be one of the greatest again. Season 9 Rick, I've shared my opinions on how he went to the barbers and asked for the deadest shit possible. So that really makes me want to put him down here, but I gotta respect Rick. These two Rick, no disrespect to them. Again, really entertaining to watch, but the reason they're down here is just because they hadn't adapted yet. You know, they were both smart, badass, entertaining to watch, but it's just the adaptation, which don't get me wrong, these two Ricks were more adapted, but I just, but from an entertainment standpoint of watching them, I just didn't want to watch them as much. So yeah, and then obviously these two were a bit of a struggle for me, but I think this Rick still was more entertaining to watch than this Rick. He was still a bit boring. Wow! Fuck! Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the video. That is the tier list. I will leave a link to this tier list in the top link of the description. So again, if you want to do it and send me your tier list or make a video on it, and if you want to tag me in the description, I would honestly love that, so I could see, you know, your video. So then I could see that I would get the notification of the mention. I could watch your video on it. But ladies and gentlemen, that has been my Rick Grimes throughout the season's tier list. I honestly hope you enjoyed. I hope you agree. If you don't, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know what your favorite versions of Rick were, and personally ones that you didn't like. If you think I've rated a Rick too high or too low, let me know. But most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, I hope the video made you laugh. I hope it made you smile. I hope it distracted you from whatever you may be going through in your life. If you guys want more tier lists, please make sure to like the video, smack the subscribe button, as well as that, guys, turn on the notification bell so you get notified when I upload. If you want me to do any more tier lists, again, drop that shit in the comments below. Tell me what type of tier list you would like me to do. If you haven't seen the Walking Dead characters tier list, which should be up before this one, please go and watch that one. Show that one some love. Just a pre-warning, guys, if you do go on the tier list, my tier list account is linked to an old Twitter of mine. So yeah, if you do want to follow me on Twitter, don't follow that one. Follow the one in my description. That is a Twitter from me in like year 8. I'm going to change the profile picture before this video goes out, so none of you fuck asses have that. So yeah, if you do go down to the description to follow my Twitter, make sure you as well look at all the other links in my description. And yeah, it's been your boy Ricky Dicky Doodog Grimes, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Oh, peace! Coral.